Listen, laugh, and learn.
You have to drill that target audience.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Until they are consuming your product, not because they love it, but because they can't escape.
We're all business.
Drill, baby, no more pussyfooting around.
Except when we're not.
Hey, welcome to the Focus Group. I'm John Nash, and as always, I'm joined by my very good friend and co-host, Tim Bennett. You can find us every week, in fact, every day, on all the platforms we currently are on. That would be iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher. Am I missing anything, Tim?
Yabba dabba doo.
Yeah.
Sound exasperated going through the list.
Well, there's a couple I want to add to that list someday, but we're getting there. We're inching along.
So what's the easiest way to find out?
FocusGroupRadio.com. Go to our website. The icons for all the platforms we're currently listed on are available there. Just click on it. It will take you to the platform of your choice where you could subscribe to us. And in fact, if you're doing it through iTunes, we would like you to SLR, which is our cute little acronym for subscribe, like, and rate. And the like and the rate part is important because one of our producers insists that the more likes we have, the higher up we go, and perhaps someday the magical editors at iTunes will make us a featured podcast, and that would be a very good day indeed.
Can't you just pay for that?
No. You can't. There's 5 people. You have to bribe the 5 people at the podcasting department.
Did you know anybody at Apple? You were one of the early adopters.
You know more people at Apple than I do.
One.
There you I know 0. You know 1, so you know more than I do. We do have a phone number here at the Focus Group, and a lot of you have been using it, which we've enjoyed a great deal. In fact, one of the funniest segments we've done in a while came from our friend Chuck in Atlanta, who suggested, after an accidental tap on the half-speed button on his iTunes playback or in the podcast, that we play the show at half speed, and it resulted in, I think, something we should do more often.
I played it all weekend. I laughed, and I knew it was coming, but it does sound like we've either
had one too many
drinks or something.
There's a keg back here.
Is that how you are on pot? Are you that way?
No,
you're not that kind of, because that's what the guy said. You sound stoned, and I don't know if he was meaning we were stoned, drunk.
Didn't the word stoned used to actually mean drunk for a long time? Wasn't that the thing? So the phone number here is 914-362-8747 or 914-FOCUS-GR. You can leave a comment for us or ask a question for a segment we do called Ask Tim and John. And if your question's selected, you're going to get a pair of our famous Focus Group Radio socks, which I believe are going to be coming back soon, right?
Yes, purple.
Aubergine or purple?
Purple and aubergine.
That's a deep.
Can't you get yourself out of the gay issue?
It's a deep purple. I like that color.
Reminds me, car companies try to do that sort of thing with names, and then it ends up it's purple.
Yeah,
Red,
like
yellow.
burgundy.
Burgundy, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all right. So it's going to be.
Aubergine.
But I just want to make the point that the purple is not like a sports purple. It's like a deep purple.
That I don't know.
Oh, you. And who's providing them this time around?
AdMark, our friend Brian Rummett at AdMark 360.
Excellent. All
right.
right.
The new crop of socks are coming. They should hopefully be here within a month. So you'll be able to try them out.
And once we are doing that, we're going to let you know how to get them, and you just have to sign up at the website.
Maybe this purple. That too much? Or you want deeper?
That's purple.
All right.
That's what I call purple. That's not what I call aubergine.
All right. Yeah, aubergine's kind of blacky, eggplanty.
Dark purple. Who do we have on today, Mr. Bennett?
So joining us is one of our friends from Curve Magazine. It's the editor-in-chief, Merryn Johns, will be joining us. And she's been with us over the years, and you had talked to some friends right before the show that we've actually had the pleasure of traveling around, should we say around the world? That sounds a little pretentious.
Brazil, Spain. She's been with
Chicago.
us. Nowhere near as exotic as
Brazil, Spain,
Madrid,
Chicago.
Barcelona,
Chicago. But she's traveled with us, and it's always good to get the L out of the LGBT perspective. So she's going to come in,
Merryn, too.
Right? And so she'll share that with us, and then I think at the end of the show we've got another surprise, don't we?
No, that's going to be next.
No, another time.
You mean candy surprise?
Yeah.
Well. Yeah, I'm looking off the set because we have candies to taste and sample. No, this week we're doing people's absolute worst summer jobs.
Oh, well, it would help if I finished reading the show rundown. Do you have?
We'll save that. We'll save that.
You had a bad summer job, I take it.
I don't know if bad's the word for it, but one I would never do again is probably a better way of saying it. Is that what you would do?
No, I'm with you on that one. I'm totally with you on that one.
All right, so circus is in town. It's actually the 2-week circus. Tim just told me that he is put his name in the lottery for the Democratic convention. You're going to try to be on the set of Morning Joe.
Right. So on Facebook I liked Morning Joe, the show in the morning that's on, at least on East Coast.
Scarborough,
right. MSNBC 6 to. Have you seen, by the way, that there's rumor that they're in a relationship?
Yeah.
Well, she has been talking about it.
She solidified her divorce like 2 weeks ago.
And he got divorced 2 years earlier.
But still lives in the same house, and he has half the house, she has that, right?
Yeah, I noticed that there was a little bit of, I thought, chemistry between those two a couple of years ago, but I don't know. They were just seen in Nantucket together, but they said they were at a wedding, Barnacle's wedding.
Mike Barnacle?
Son's
wedding. Okay, yeah, because he's
They just happened to arrive together. So who knows? But anyway, they put out a posting that they're looking for people for the audience for the Democratic convention in Philadelphia.
When they do their coffee shop restaurant,
right?
You could sit right behind Joe and move your head.
Right, and you had to ask, and then you had to fill out why. So I said, well, because we share the same birthday with Joe Scarborough, and I think we're the same age. And then I also said the last time a convention was in town, I got to share a bathroom with George H.W. Bush. So I thought maybe that would, draw attention.
Complete accident. And, that would never happen again because that was a whole...
Pre-9/11.
It was, the Secret Service was there, but you kind of ended up in the same bathroom as he did.
I think...
Dick Cheney in there, too?
No, it was his doctor, and they were talking about his PSA levels for his prostate. And they were both in the stalls. And I thought that was at the time. Remember Dana Carvey was really big doing the George imitations.
1,000 points of lights.
I had just gotten my hair cut really, really short, and I was in a blue blazer and khakis. And
Maybe they thought you were Secret Service.
Somebody said that because that's what they were wearing that night. And I was bored listening to they were introducing Dan Quayle or somebody like that to speak. And I had to go to the bathroom. You know me, I've got to go to the bathroom all the time. So I ran up to the top of the stadium and I got stopped by security. And they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I need to go to the bathroom." And they said, "No, you've got to go all the way down through the crowd, up and over." I'm like, "Oh, come on, I just have to go to the bathroom." So the guys kind of looked around, they let me go. And then the line was a mile long.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, all these guys are probably pee shy for the urinal, but I really have to go. So I skimmed along the wall and I got in the bathroom. It was empty. I thought, wow, what is this about? And that's when I heard, "Slept through the whole night last night." And I'm like, it's either Dana Carvey or it's President Bush, and starts talking about very personal medical issues. And then his doctor got out of the stall, and he was at the sink washing his hands, and the guy kept going, and George kept talking about Barbara made coffee, he couldn't believe he slept through the night, on and on and on. And then I'm at the sink, and George Bush comes out from the stall, and he just, like I didn't even exist, looks right at his doctor and just goes, "I guess that's enough talk about the prostate." And they wash their hands and they leave. And I thought, should I say hello? But it was a very personal conversation. But I thought, no, I'm not going to say anything. So as they're leaving, Bush says, "Who's that guy?" And the doctor's like, "Well, I don't know." And as I come out the bathroom, then Secret Service and everybody had grabbed me and, what's going on. And the guy that I was there with that was bragging about how I was going to see all these famous people, who was standing there with a drink, Maury Markowitz, PR guy. He's like, "Were you in there peeing with Bush?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I told you you'd meet people tonight."
Maury Markowitz.
Maury Markowitz, yeah. I still remember. He's a character.
Yeah, I met Mika and Joe down at a book signing in Barnes & Noble on Union Square. And when I went up to the table, Joe was the first one to sign the book. I said, "Hey, Joe," I said, "big fan. I do a radio show, and my co-host has your birthday, and I'm probably a lot like Mika." And there's a pause, and he's like got the pen above, and he goes, "What do you mean you're a lot like Mika?" I said, "Well, I'm a bit of a food fanatic and very careful." "Hey, Mika!" He goes, "This guy has a show, and he's you, and I'm the person who's not here," however he put it. And it was very funny, and gave him the card and some assistant. Remember, I called
Lewis.
him. Yeah, Lewis, the assistant. Yeah.
They got in trouble for the Cinco de Mayo skit. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. Is that what happened to him?
He's still on. He's on the earlier show at whatever the 5:30 a.m. show
works
is.
with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So as we said earlier, the Republican convention's in town. If you like train wrecks, this is something you want to tune into. And I can't even watch it all. I can't watch it all the way through.
I haven't heard anything yet, other than a lot of anger toward
Jailer.
Lock her up.
Yeah, right? Lock her up. That's it. Lock her up.
But I haven't heard anything, and I'm curious as to what the reviews are going to be when it finally ends. I don't know.
it's going to be very curious to see what he concludes the convention with, right? I mean, this speech, everybody's pinning all their hopes on this one big speech, and if
He's not good on a teleprompter.
no, I don't know if I'd be good on teleprompter, frankly.
No,
You
it's
have
a
to really
skill.
practice
It's
at
a
that.
skill.
Yeah,
It's
you
a
got to
skill,
really.
and he doesn't
practice
like
at
it.
that.
Yeah, because he likes to go off the cuff, which we would not be good at that either, being scripted. I don't think. Do you?
No. All right. So, what caught your eye this week besides the Ringling
Circus?
Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus come to town? Yeah.
Well, this had caught my eye because they're celebrating 20 years in business. Have you ever heard of Flamingo Air?
Okay.
Cincinnati.
When I was prepping,
You can't look ahead.
well, there's no choice. All right, so we give one of our producers, John, has access to our graphics for this, and when I look at the pictures, when I'm putting my pictures in after you put, and I'm like, what is this? And I couldn't figure this out. And so to tell us
So
what this is,
Flamingo Air is America's only airline devoted to fulfilling sexual fantasies. So in case you wanted to get into the Mile High Club, there's a pilot named David McDonald. He's out of Cincinnati, and he used to run charter trips for people. And the business wasn't doing well, so friends of his had a few drinks, and they came up with this idea of everybody always asked him about the Mile High Club and have you ever had sex in the air? So he thought, you know what, I'm going to turn this charter into this business for the Mile High Club. So I had expectations that this plane would be something of luxury, but if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that perhaps not. It's like a Cessna, and essentially all they've done.
This is the one. If you're not watching on YouTube, I'll describe it to you for the podcast. This little plane.
Yeah.
This is one of those planes where I think it maybe holds 6 or 8 people,
It took 4
including the
seats
pilot.
out. Yeah.
Which means it's a totally open interior, and then when you look at it, it's just these 2 kind of pillows, right?
He threw some pillows back there, and you get champagne and chocolates, and there's a curtain that just separates you from pilot.
From him. Is that him,
That's
the
him.
pilot?
Yeah. He wears noise-canceling earphones or headphones, and you could go. The flight's $425. It's an hour, and ironically, most people that who do you think charters this plane? Any guesses?
No, I'm stymied on this.
It's predominantly, so he's done thousands of flights over the last 20 years. He does 4 to 5 a week, and it's predominantly women that will take the flight, that will book it. They'll bring their husbands or boyfriends. Most of the people are middle-aged, 40 and older. The oldest person he had was 85 years old, and yes, they did do it, he said. They were celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary.
He had noise-canceling headphones
He knows
on.
what's going on. You can see through that little, curtain. So he says, though, why he's able to stay in business, because a bunch of other companies have tried to do this, apparently. But he doesn't sell sex, and there's nothing about the Mile High Club that's on any of his literature. He says, you can't sell sex, you got to sell the romance and sizzle. And he said, and then everything else certainly will happen. And so as I said, you get chocolates and champagne for the $425. He did do a wedding up there just recently. He said that couple didn't do anything because there was also a priest they brought along.
Well, yeah, there could have been
But you
some
never
going
know,
on.
right.
You never know.
And then he said one of the oddest flights he had ever done was there was a couple that had 8 children, and they came. He said they showed up with a big picnic basket, and he didn't quite understand what was going on, but he said all the wife and husband wanted to do was just get away from the kids for an hour. So they just actually went up
They just
there
had a
and
nice
had
flight
a little
up.
picnic, yeah.
Okay.
But I thought it was interesting, obviously, and I was just wondering if, would that be something you would do?
No.
Oh, see, I'd get right on.
Oh, I'd happily take a flight, but
Have you ever done the Mile High Club thing?
no.
I have a number of friends who've done it.
Wait, let me just pause right there. When was the last time you used a bathroom on a plane?
This is my last trip. They're tiny.
I can't even imagine. I guess you could get 2 in there, but I had trouble
The
even
old
just
planes you could, yeah.
standing.
The old planes you could.
And we were on a modern Delta flight. It was
No,
not.
that plane was too cramped. But
Yeah,
there
my
are
head's
planes.
already hitting
yeah,
the- yeah,
no, that was
so-
horrible. I couldn't even find where to flush. But but on most
People on my flight never even bothered pushing that button. From what I could, yeah, I know.
But most planes, are the older planes used to be able to have a lot more room in there.
You know, the 747, didn't they have the bathrooms mid-cabin?
Yeah.
Not up at the curvature, but you could actually go into like a room that was more rectangular. So it's...
Well, I was surprised about that last flight you and I took, because I would say that it was the smallest airplane bathroom I was ever in. But I have a friend that he was a flight attendant, and he did a lot of flights to Australia and in New Zealand. And he said, actually, there's no law against 2 people going in the bathroom. He said they can't stop anybody from doing it. It happens all the time. He says in those long 14-hour flights, all the time couples are in there. That's what he tells me.
I am totally not. My head must
you
be
wouldn't-
buried in an iPad because I'm not paying any attention to that. I don't think it. I say yes for New Zealand, Australia, Hawaii, Japan. Like those are huge long flights. I could see that, but
I was going to call him and ask him whether
Kansas City
same-sex couples have done this.
yeah, you should find out. Yeah.
So I thought maybe I'd get this as a wedding gift for you and Bob, but it sounds like you don't want to take the flight.
There's enough pictures on Paul and Mass, by the way, of people in
Bathrooms?
airplane bathrooms that something's going on, right?
Really? At Paul and Mass?
Yeah, now and then you'll be like, oh, that's an airplane bathroom.
Oh, I haven't noticed that. So that's what caught my eye. Happy anniversary to Flamingo Air out of Cincinnati. If you're looking for something,
and what's the guy? What was the guy's name? The captain.
David McDonald.
Yeah, happy.
They just call him McDonald. He's just known as McDonald.
He could stay as McDonald. Yeah. Now mine's totally 180 from yours, and it revolves around Alexander McQueen. Did you read about this?
No.
All
Is
right.
he the designer who killed himself?
He committed suicide in 2010. Very famous fashion designer. So a woman named Tina Gorjanc. I want to say Gorniak.
What's her first name?
Tina.
Tina.
Let's go with Tina. Thank you, Tim. She is finishing up her schooling at the Central St. Martin's College in London. And she's a fashion student, and she plans to cultivate Alexander McQueen's skin and create leather products based on his actual skin. So here we have on the monitor, I'll describe for our
Where's
listeners.
she getting the skin from?
Okay, this is kind of fascinating. So they went to some of his previous collections and they found samples of his hair, and they collected the DNA, and currently the project is in experimental phase where she's using pig skin for her products, but they can actually grow skin based on the DNA they recovered from these strands of hair they found. And so far the McQueen Foundation and the family, they have no problem with this, and she would like to replicate the skin and then actually recreate the tattoos that he had on his body, and then they would create, I think there's a picture we have of a leather jacket that they want to do.
Are you reading Morticians Monthly? I mean, where did you get this from?
This was in the Guardian, and this was in a magazine called Quartz. And I've seen it pop up a few places.
Wow.
So the reason she did this, though, is she said this is intended to raise questions about not only ownership of genetic material, your genes are your genes, but also about the notion of how we produce some of the goods and things we wear today with how we kill animals and to get leather and stuff like that. So growing this kind of thing would be something that would solve that problem. Bioengineered genetic material. She's been approached by a number of people to produce the items for sale, but she feels that once she concludes this and once she's grown the skin and she creates she calls them artifacts, they will probably be residing in a gallery after that, which I actually think is more appropriate than selling it.
So she's growing his skin?
Yeah, they're culturing his skin. Yeah. Now, the Mile High Club.
I don't think I'd have read one more sentence on that one. Wow.
Well, Tim.
She must have been a big fan of his.
Tim, she was actually, and she was because of how provocative he was,
right,
in terms of his. We used to do these shows. Like I was reading here, he says in 2001, he did an asylum-themed collection, which culminated with a fleshy nude woman reclining in a glass cube, breathing through tubes connected to a face mask as live moths fluttered around her. I mean, that's Alexander McQueen. So this is the way Caught Your Eye works, though. Caught my eye. Growing human skin.
Okay.
So there you go.
We should have today, John, when we had lunch, we should have celebrated because
Is this our day?
July 23rd. Yeah. July 23rd is National Hot Dog Day.
God, I seem to think we've celebrated this before when we were
Hot dog
over on
day?
our other planet. Well, it comes up as one of the food holidays, yeah.
Yeah, it does. And Americans consume over 20 billion hot dogs a year, otherwise known as Frankfurters, Franks, Wieners, Dogs, or Red Hots. You don't eat hot dogs.
I am not part of that crowd, no.
How could you not
And
love a hot
guys,
dog?
do you eat hot dogs in the booth?
It depends what kind. You get the pork kind with that snappy little outer casing. Those are the good ones.
I'm going to tell you who makes a great. I'm going to tell you who makes a great hot dog, and we need.
Who makes a great hot dog?
We've talked about having them on the show for $1.50. You get a hot dog and a drink, and the price will never change. Costco. Costco hot dog is unbelievable, and you can buy them in the. Let me make a face. You can buy them.
Am I making?
Oh, I had a face.
I thought that was my no face.
No, I had a face.
Okay,
Like,
well.
So next time I come up to your place, I'm going to bring you. They actually sell the packs of the hot dogs with the rolls that they sell actually at the concession stand there. Have you bought the Costco hot dog?
I haven't stepped foot in a Costco in I don't even know how many years.
Well, we're going to Costco to get a hot dog.
All right.
So that's.
If you do that, then we have to have the IKEA people come with the meatballs.
Those are good when you don't get a piece of fat in the middle of them, but they're pretty good.
I mean, if you're going to do store food, and signature store food, Costco, and
Well, that would be a good idea. So we could do the Swedish meatballs and
we'll have a food off. Yeah, like store food takedown.
I tend to think both things a little cold though probably won't be good.
Oh, no. You don't want, yeah, okay.
1715, the first lighthouse in America was authorized out in the Cape. It was a little Brewster Island lighthouse in Massachusetts. 1829, William Burt patented the they called it a typographer, but it was really the first typewriter.
I was going to use this for Week in Science, but I took a pass on this.
Why would a typewriter be the week in science?
That's why I took a pass. This is more mechanical invention kind of thing.
Engineering.
And I just thought I'll let you have it. I'll have Tim have the typewriter. Have at the typewriter.
Well, it's like I could have done a Sally Ride thing.
No.
That's space.
That's space. That's
science. That's clearly in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
The very first passenger railroad service began in Cincinnati, Ohio. I would have thought that would have been somewhere in the Northeast rather than Ohio. From
Passenger
municipal.
rail.
Yeah, railroad. Yeah, wouldn't you have thought it would have been the Northeast?
Certainly the Northeast, yeah.
1904, this one, there's some controversy. The ice cream cone was invented by Charles Menches and his brother. Now, they've also claimed to have invented caramel popcorn and hamburgers.
All right. I wasn't crazy when I saw that name because that name was associated when we did the hamburgers thing, right?
So they claim that in Louisiana, at the Louisiana Purchase exhibition in St. Louis, that they came up with the ice cream cone. But there's two other people, Italo Marchiony from Italy, claims that he did it out of New York City. And then there was a Syrian immigrant that was also at the St. Louis Fair that was selling a pastry called, I'll pronounce it wrong, but it's Zalabis, I think, Zalabis. And it was in a crispy waffle cone. It was a pastry in a waffle cone. And the ice cream vendor next to him ran out of dishes. And they just started throwing the ice cream into these little Syrian waffle cones a guy had.
I kind of buy that as a random kind of invention thing, right?
So they all have them there. It's between 1899 and 1904, but all three have laid claim. And of course, every city likes to say where they've
Can you patent the ice cream cone?
Probably the shape, couldn't you? Maybe the machine that would design it.
I don't know if you could. That ownership of the ice cream cone. That's a strange.
Want to guess how many ice cream cones are made?
You mean the actual
made a day?
Oh, okay.
The actual cone in the U.S.
The thing that hold, but there's two kinds. There's the soft one, which I prefer, and then there's the sugar cone, right? Millions or billions?
No, thousands.
Only thousands?
Yeah.
How many?
150,000 a day. I would have thought more.
Okay.
Wouldn't you have thought more?
Well, when you multiply that by 365, that's getting up there. So.
But I can't tell you the last time I had a cone, and I love ice cream. So, 1984, Miss America Vanessa Williams turned in her crown after it was discovered that she posed nude for Penthouse. Do you think she'd have to resign now?
Now, in our climate today, that could have been one of the contests. I mean, ditch the bathing suit thing. Do that instead. I mean, I don't think she'd have to turn the crown in, but...
And your friend and mine, Lance Armstrong, in 2000, won his second Tour de France. What do you think of that? Are you watching it? Is it over?
Yeah, no, it ends on Sunday when they arrive on the Champs-Elysees.
Is there an American winning, or who's winning?
No, the current leader is who will hopefully be the four-time champion or third, Chris Froome from Team Sky.
Where is he? What is he? A Brit or something?
Brit, but by way of South Africa.
Oh, my guess is they're testing people quite heavily.
Yeah, and they're also doing mechanical testing. Have you heard about this? Mechanical doping. Well, there was a girl, a women's cyclocross or road bike event several months ago, and the winner was found to have an electric motor built into the bike. And so now they have if you watch the Tour de France, they have these scooters go by the riders now and then, and they have these, they look like guns, but they're actually looking for the magnetic signature of an electric motor. So now we have mechanical doping and we have doping, or biological.
I hate to tell you, John, but this sport has really kind of become like the WWE of. Sports, isn't it? I mean, it's
At the professional level, I'm not going to disagree with you there.
July 26th, Tuesday. Prince's movie Purple Rain premiered in Hollywood.
Do you remember Purple Rain when it came out?
I do, and I think actually
This is what it
you
sounds
took me,
like. Did I take you?
Took me to
Yes.
Watertown Theater.
We saw it for $1.50.
Right, and then we went to get a $5
$1.50.
pizza and a $2 beer.
We might have done a chew and screw that night.
You're not supposed to talk about that.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
1804, the 12th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified. What's important about this, you talked about the election earlier. So this made it so that we voted for a president and vice president together as a ticket. Before then, the elections were always you vote for president, whoever got second became VP. So in 1804, the 12th Amendment
These scary
ratified
gents
that.
you put up for the YouTube.
So
folks.
somebody's actually done a ranking of the ugliest vice presidents. So the guy on the left there that you look at is John Calhoun, and they said he was crazy. If you look at his picture, he's at the top of everyone's list as being the ugliest vice president.
Okay.
And they said he had very crazy eyes and goofy hair, but he served under Quincy Adams and John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson. And then I put number 10 up, and he was William R. King. He was vice president under Franklin Pierce. He looked a little bit of a dandy, didn't he?
Was he had like flour in his hair or something?
Yeah. So, but
What a strange group pairing. I don't know how you. Wow.
we don't remember our VPs, do we?
Not really. No. Whenever you mention the word Dan Quayle, though, I just think of potato.
And Dick Cheney made the list.
He was
Yeah,
on the
he
list,
was
okay.
in the top 10, but I didn't put all 10 up there. So what happened in science this week?
Now, children, it's time for the learning.
Listen,
I know.
you learned a couple.
Everybody learns on the week in history. This actually fell on the heels of one of the caught your eyes from a week or two ago when you were talking about selfies and how many people die at this location by stepping
Picchu?
off Machu
Yeah.
Picchu. Yeah. So for the week of July 23rd, July 24th, Machu Picchu was discovered in 1911 by the American Hiram Bingham. Back then it was called Vilcabamba, I can't even pronounce it, now called Machu Picchu, where the last Incan emperors found refuge from the conquistadors. I like that picture, actually. I can't wait to see it someday.
You're going to go there?
I'd love to go there, yeah.
I don't
I'm
understand.
not going to step off a cliff taking a selfie, but I'd love to.
I never understood why it was abandoned. Did they ever know?
I don't know much about the history of the city beyond that. And there was actual speculation that it was a summer residence for the emperors, that it was never meant to be a permanent place to live all year. This is for you, this next one, on July 24th as well. In 1801, the American Philosophical Society of Philadelphia, still in existence.
Yes, they are, right on Walnut Street.
Are you serious? You're not.
No.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All
We hold
right.
meetings once a week.
They sponsored the first collecting expedition under the auspices of an American Scientific Society when they loaned $500 to this guy on the left, if you're watching YouTube. His name is Charles Wilson Peale. He operated a museum in Philadelphia, and he had just returned from upstate New York with a partial skeleton of a mastodon found by a farmer digging marl. I have no idea what marl is, M-A-R-L, from a bog. It must be mud or peat or something, right? So Peale took the money that he got from the Philly Society, the Philosophical Society of Philly, and he went back for a full-blown expedition. And the thing on the right, the painting, is a water wheel draining the swamp. So they could put these little rods in and figure out where the mastodon was. And he uncovered a complete mastodon and was exhibited in Philadelphia. And now I believe that's the skeleton. That's the actual one he found. That's over in Europe now for some reason.
Why would it go there, I wonder?
I don't know. It said it was in Norway, or it was Denmark or Norway. And I was like, why would it be over there? But that's the mastodon they found. So Philly sent him to New York to take our mastodon to Philly.
To give to Europe.
To give to Europe. Yeah, exactly.
Was it up in Hudson area, you said, or something? Or
It just said up
upstate?
New York State, and who knows how far up it was. I should have done a little more research. July 25th, Frank Sprague. Now this name, I know this name actually. A lot of people would know it if you've seen it on engines or engine blocks or things. He is the inventor and the pioneer of the electric railway system. So thanks to him, we have streetcars. He was the one that really made it happen. He created a system that allowed the wheels to grip the tracks and the electric motors to be as efficient as possible. So he has a ton of patents. Guess who bought up his trolley system in 1887?
General Motors.
No, bought it to run it.
Oh, bought it to run it?
Yeah, one of your favorite inventors.
Ben Franklin.
Thomas Edison. Yeah, Ben Franklin. Yeah, Ben came back from the dead, and he bought the. Yeah, that's why I say the week in science is,
Well, this is a stretch.
What?
This.
What do you mean?
Cable car. Is this a cable car or electric car?
Electric streetcar.
Edison bought it.
Yeah, and then for you as well, another first in space flight.
Uh-oh.
The first woman to do a spacewalk was not an American. It was this charmer here, and this is Svetlana. I love that right off the bat.
My favorite name.
Svetlana Savitskaya. She made her second trip into space, during which she became the first woman to walk in space. This was done actually as a poke in the eye to NASA, because Russians got wind of the fact that NASA was recruiting female astronauts. In fact, 7 months after Svetlana did her walk in space, Sally Ride became the first American female astronaut in space.
You sure you got the right picture?
Okay, so I went.
Svetlana's got a little boy. She's got a Leave It to Beaver haircut.
Yeah, well, the picture that I found of her that I wanted to use, she had even more severe of a bowl cut, and the helmet was half on her head, like the thing was you couldn't tell who she was, but when I blew it up, it didn't look like anything but a bunch of pixels. So we had to go with this much more cheery version of her before she's stuffed into the Soyuz and shot up into space.
Svetlana. I always like that name.
Yeah, Svetlana.
Svetlana Nash.
Savitskaya. Yeah. So that was the week in science.
Good.
So far, though, you only believe that 2 or 3 of these items were science. The Sprague thing about electric trolleys, that's not science.
I don't know if is that engineering or is it science and engineering? See, that's where you have to. When I think of you in science, I think of Jupiter and all that business.
Which is?
Science.
A gas giant.
Jupiter, yeah.
What other
Mars.
gas giant do we have in the system? Oh my God!
I don't know.
I feel terrible when I put you on the spot. Saturn.
Who cares? That's what I.
Yeah, all right, let's move on.
Saturn and Jupiter. I should know that though. Happy birthday, our business birthday, Sunday, July 24th, celebrating his 71st birthday this Sunday, is Azim Hashim Premji. He's an Indian business tycoon, investor, and philanthropist.
I like the quote.
Yeah, well, his family actually started way back when in the 40s, manufacturing cooking oil. And he was a student, cooking oil and laundry soaps and stuff. So they were almost like, I would say, the P&G of India. And his father died while he was in college. He was at Stanford. So he returned home at 21 and took over the business and grew the business and diversified by adding bakery goods, ethnic products, toiletries, so forth and so on. And into the 80s, IBM had, what he said, imploded in India. The company fell apart, so he decided that he was going to get involved in software. So he switched a lot of the company's focus into software, from, as he says, soaps to software. And now one of the most influential and wealthiest people in the world. The cool thing about him is he's given over 50% of his wealth away. And he was the very first Indian and only third non-American to sign on to the Giving Pledge, which was led by Warren Buffett and Bill Gates to encourage wealthy people to give up their money to good causes and for people that could really use it around the world. As he said, the less privileged. One of his quotes, though, he said, "Money does not thrill him." I guess when you got $5 billion, you can say that. So
yeah, I would say that. Yeah, with $5 billion in the bank.
So happy birthday, Azim.
Yeah.
Then another birthday on Thursday, July 28th, is Earl Tupper. And he died in 1983 at 76. He's the American-born businessman and inventor of Tupperware, which he had a job at DuPont. He was his boss had given him some polyethylene slag that was used from oil production, one of the off products or waste products of oil refining, byproduct. And he made some lightweight containers, bowls, even gas masks that were used in World War II. And he tried selling them at hardware stores and department stores until Brownie Wise called him up. And Brownie Wise was hosting Tupperware parties at his house. And she convinced him to not sell them through stores, but through these house parties. So this was the very first instance of party planning and marketing through homes. So he and Brownie Wise got in a fight. He ended up selling Tupperware in 1958 for $16 million.
That's it?
To Rexall, that's it. And then he moved to Costa Rica and died. But as we know, we've had on our show, Aunt Barbara was one of the top selling Tupperware people in the country, right? And she's going to be our first live show that we do.
We have that pegged for
September
September.
1st.
That's going to be we got to.
She's going to have a little Tupperware party here with her products and
do a
go
demo,
through some.
and if you don't know, Aunt Barbara, this is something you want to put on your calendar. What did we say it was September
1st, Thursday.
It was a Thursday, the first, yeah. I just based on telling you something, you were going
About
to
Tupperware?
It was about Tupperware, yeah. Oh. So he sold it for $16 million.
Yeah, to Rexall, which I think is a drug.
Do you remember a couple years ago we interviewed the owner of Dollar Shave Club?
Yeah.
Did you see what he sold it for?
I posted that on our Facebook page.
$1 billion to Gillette.
Right.
Wow.
And so did you see the posting on our Facebook page?
So
So you have to look at it there because it says, here's another thing Tim can chide John about them not founding. Razors.
Well, you remember when he started, right? Yeah. And this was like, what, 4 years ago?
Another thing we missed, John.
Well, we didn't miss it. He just went to a cheaper manufacturer and figured out how to sell them for like, what was it, $1 a month or
I
something?
think there's a Dollar Lotion Club or something.
You do know that he tried a brand extension that failed miserably.
What was it?
It was called One Wipe Charlie's. Have you heard of this?
No.
Garrett's shaking his head. Yes. He would include samples with the razor blades for guys that were doing Dollar Shave Club, and a One Wipe Charlie was just a moist towelette for wiping. Didn't catch
Your
on.
brow or?
No.
Oh,
Little clean time in the bathroom. One Wipe Charlie.
perfect. Well, thank you.
So that didn't take off, but $1 billion later, the razors did. Yeah.
We missed that again. Hey, it's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have Merryn Johns joining us, who's editor-in-chief of Curve magazine, and we're going to talk to her about the L in the LGBT. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Focus Group is brought to you by Volkswagen Golf Sport Wagon. With loads of cargo space, sleek design, the versatility of an SUV, and the maneuverability of a car. The Golf Sport Wagon is in a category all its own. Learn more at VW.com.
Let's make some money.
He's the business manager. Let him manage.
This is the Focus Group.
Champagne! Champagne for everyone!
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. You can find our show on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. We like to say, make it easier for you. Go to focusgroupradio.com, and you could see a little list of all the platforms we're available on. Click on one, and you could start subscribing. And if you do, like and rate us, please. All things social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and LinkedIn as well, are all Focus Group Radio. Now, joining us to my right, if you're happening to watch the YouTube channel, is none other than Merryn Johns, the editor-in-chief of Curve magazine, America's best-selling publication for lesbians. And I believe there's some news about the magazine too, right?
There is. The company that owns Curve just recently acquired Diva magazine, which is the best-selling lesbian magazine in England.
Diva.
I know.
I never heard of Diva.
That's because you are not really plugged into lesbians in London, I imagine. That's okay.
He might not be plugged into lesbians anywhere. That could be a possibility, right?
Right. So are you? Is you were acquired or you were sold? What's the?
Well,
Is there
the
a fine
company
line?
that owns Curve magazine is called Avalon Media, and Avalon Media, I believe, has formed another business entity, and they've now acquired Diva magazine, which is great because there's a tendency in our community to not be owned by lesbian business people, and now pretty much all the lesbian magazines in the world are owned by lesbians, which is terrific.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So what? So what is going on at Curve? A lot of people might not. There's always lots of discussion about the demise of print media and so forth, and as everyone moves into digital. What's the news going on at Curve? Are you still very much a a printed publication?
We are. The news is good. I mean, we've survived, I think, probably one of the worst periods in publishing history, which saw a lot of really great, strong magazines go out of business. So it's a miracle that such a small niche magazine is still surviving and has a really loyal readership. But that doesn't mean they don't like us in other forms. So they definitely like the digital version, which you can get on the website, and they love the iPad version, which you can subscribe to. And, you know, of course, really active on social media as well. So these are all different readerships. But print, a lot of people are coming back to print because after trying the iPad and just watching our Facebook feed, they realise the magazine is a different experience and they want to still have that.
I prefer print for a lot of my specialty publications. News, New York Times, you know, and the daily stuff I don't mind consuming electronically. But when I want to sit with the publication, I want to sit with the publication. And I'm not a... Did we talk about this once before, I wonder? When you pick up a magazine, where do you open up to? What's your natural instinct to go?
Oh, it's so weird. It's weird for everybody. I always look at the cover first, but then for some reason I turn to the back and then flick through. I mean, what is that?
That's exactly what I do. I read the last page first. Usually there's an editorial or it's a comic or maybe it's a
question
lighthearted or a question thing. And then I work my way to the editorial well. Do you still call it the well, the middle of the magazine?
Yeah.
And then the columns usually up front. So that's, you can't do that with digital. It's the promise is it's nonlinear, but
Right.
you can't drop it at the end and then reverse. You can, but it's just not as, you know.
I think swiping is different. I don't even think it's reading. I can't read a whole magazine on iPad. I find it really difficult. I tend to just swipe to look at the pictures and get the gist of the article, but I'm yet to actually sit down and read the whole thing on the iPad.
I let all my subscriptions that were iPad lapse. Except one, I think.
Did you? I'm surprised by that because
Macworld
you were big about electronic media.
My cycling books come as print magazines. The only one that I think is digital is Macworld, which it's a swipeable. Here's a tip, here's a tip, here's some sauce.
It's funny because at my house I have, in my living room, I guess is what I would call it. I've got a table with a bunch of different magazines on it. Whenever anyone visits,
They pick them up.
so everyone picks up. You look through them, or the phone rings and you pick it up, and your friends. That wouldn't happen if you just had everything in digital, right? So I still think there's something. I don't know, maybe it's our age. Have you found that your readership is, are you trying to get a younger readership? I'm assuming you're about the same as...
Damn millennials. I mean, it's like fishing. How do you get them? Everyone's trying to get the millennials. No, you know, it's funny. I don't think an attachment to print necessarily corresponds with age. I don't think it's automatically the older lesbians that like the print magazine. A lot of them like the iPad magazine. Right. I think it's got more to do with where you are in the community, whether you're coming out, whether you've got a partner, whether you're tech savvy, whether you're wealthy enough to own an iPad. And then I think, you know, it's very personal how we read things because a magazine actually gives your body a certain demeanor when you read it. You know, for me, if I'm going to a resort and I'm lying by the pool, I'm not going to take my iPad out in the sun. I just won't. I'll take a magazine and I'll flick through it. You know, if I spill my cocktail on it, it's fine. But I think, you know, when you take a magazine off a shelf, you're saying, this is my time. I'm now going to spend 25, 30 minutes reading this thing. And for me, iPads, laptops, they're just too much like work. So I'm not going to relax when I'm reading a magazine or looking at a website on a...
That's a good way of putting it.
Well, here in New York, the modus operandi used to be that you could pretty much judge a person not only by the magazine they would be reading on the subway, but if it was a book too. Remember back in the people, you'd see the paperback or the hardback. And now everybody's doing Pokemon Go. From what I can tell,
Not me.
Wandering into walls and
You done it? No,
Not
I'm not doing
me.
it. I don't.
it's officially cool to not care about Pokemon Go. I think we crossed that line about a day ago. One of the newspapers said it's officially cool to not care about this
Isn't
game.
it from the kids who grew up in the 90s, though? Isn't that who's...
Everybody's doing it.
Well, I mean, I think
Really?
it's officially smart not to care about it because there was a kid that walked in front of a bus, and then I was recently in Hawaii and I was standing on the edge of a volcano, and there's a kid there with the game on, and I just thought, wow, 2 steps forward and you're toast.
Yeah, 2 forward, there's no back.
I was at a funeral and people had it, the younger kids, which I was shocked about. But I don't know. I think it's weird. What are you? So much of the acronym, the LGBT. There's been lots of chatter, particularly with Caitlyn Jenner. We've had lots of discussion around the T. But what's going on with the lesbian part of our our acronym? Is there anything we should be looking out for, or anything happening that we should be excited about? It seems to be awful quiet, or is that my imagination?
I mean, in terms of that acronym, it's really time for the T, and I think it's getting the share of the spotlight for a very good reason. And it's their time, especially in terms of activism and visibility. But as a result of that, in some ways, lesbians are being overlooked again, and we're having a lot of what I would say migration out of the lesbian community to other movements, whether they're transgender or genderqueer. There are many younger people that might have identified as lesbian years ago who now don't see a value in the word. It doesn't resonate with them, and some of them don't even identify as women, and they're non-trans. So there is a big, strong group in our community, especially the younger ones, who don't identify as women. They're not transitioning, they're gender neutral. So the word lesbian, for that to apply, you have to really identify as a woman first. And that's the latest thing that's happening in the L.
You have to identify as a woman first.
Yeah, I mean,
it makes sense.
That would be my definition of a lesbian, would be a same-sex attracted woman.
So how political are you allowed to be with Curve? I guess I'll broaden the question to say that as an editor-in-chief, you're overseeing the look and the feel of the book, and certainly there's a mission there. And is Curve lifestyle, and does lifestyle include a discussion of politics now and then, and the what ifs given our current electoral cycle?
In my opinion, yes. In my opinion, lifestyle is very political. I mean, I'm not meaning lifestyle in a cosmetic way. I'm not meaning it in the way that maybe InStyle magazine or Cosmopolitan would look at lifestyle. I think just having a life as a gay person takes a lot of effort, and it takes about 100 political choices every day. And that kind of impacts how you date, how you get married, even what furniture you buy, where you live, what neighborhood, And these are all political issues. So for me, my politics are not personal politics. In the magazine, it's often my taste or just a sense of, just a feeling of what should be in the magazine that's often based on a kind of cornucopia of ideas I have. But I don't ever put my own agenda in the magazine. I think that would be wrong. You just have an instinct. I think most editors have an instinct of what's hot, what's new, what readers should be looking at, and you've got to always be a step ahead of them and hopefully anticipate what their needs are.
But you are an opinion leader.
Oh, yes, I have opinions.
No, it's one of the great things about when we've traveled with you. And I mean, you are very much a leader, very much an opinion leader. And along the route of where John was going, so we'll throw it out there, Trump versus Hillary.
Oh, boy.
Well,
yeah.
Is there a similar, like when I think of the log cabin Republicans, I think of gay men.
Yeah.
Is there a similar movement like that amongst
lesbians that are for Trump?
Would actually be like, okay, Hillary, no, but we're going to vote for Trump. Is that actually?
I wouldn't go as far as to say they would vote for Trump, although there's always something I call the up yours vote,
But
yeah, it happens. But there are a lot of women who don't like Hillary, and I do wonder what it is, because I have a couple of thoughts on this. One, I don't think you need to like who you elect. I just think if you think that politicians are likable, then you're dreaming. I'm not even sure you should trust them because, again, as above, I think you need to vote for the person that can get stuff done, right. And not just occupy space and, be a Chris Christie.
Lots of space.
Yeah. But I think that, I'm not eligible to vote in this country, so I have the luxury of objectivity. I can think it through without having to act upon my thoughts, which is very, very lucky, which is why I don't sort of come in swinging for Hillary. Although I do think at this point, my goodness, isn't she really the only person left that is credible?
That's what I feel, and I'll speak for John, but I was seeing something this morning where there are states, New York, for instance, where it's usually been very solid Democratic. Not that Trump's going to win, but it'll be close. And places like Connecticut, it'll be close, where under normal circumstances it wouldn't be. The state I live in, Pennsylvania, has gone Democratic for the last probably 3 or 4 cycles, and it's going to be close, leaning Republican.
Yeah. And look,
That's scary to me.
It is scary, but you know, these are politicians, and I do wonder, from an editor's point of view, the whole Melania Trump speech plagiarism was fascinating, and I just think, is the Trump camp in so much disarray that they've really hired an ex-ballerina freelance writer to plagiarize a speech? Is she that stupid, or did she just take a fall? I think she.
Right.
I really do think that she's the fall guy in this. And then again, is it really credible that Hillary Clinton came out and said that, yay, the Reagans did so much for AIDS? I mean, how could how did she get that wrong?
Yeah.
Anyone knows the opposite. So these people disappoint us all the time, and unfortunately, we have to elect one of them.
But, you know, there was I think it was the Katty Kay. Is she the British correspondent? that
BBC,
sometimes
yes.
sits in on NBC. She said that both our countries are separated by 3 Gs when it comes to politics: God, guns, and government. She said in Europe, we think government works. And then she said something very nuanced, like you said. She goes, I don't have to like these people. They have to get the job done. And then she said, God, she said, we are always fighting to remain a secular culture. And you see religion is just spattered over everything here lately. And then guns, she just said, I don't have to say any more than that. You know, it's a head scratcher how you could have such an armed populace. So this whole cycle has been a confusing thing to me with gay men in particular. That's why I asked the question about, is there a log cabin Republican equivalent? You know, you could be a fiscal conservative, someone who wants you to mind your P's and Q's, and socially, you know, liberal, but a platform that basically says, we don't want you, you shouldn't exist. Why would you even see that? I just can't even finish the question. Why would you even care or vote for them, right?
I think when I think of log cabin Republicans that are gay, I also think of people who think they have ideals but don't understand that those ideals are really founded on privilege.
Yeah.
And they're trying to preserve a kind of ideal state that doesn't exist anymore. And they're insulated because they're usually wealthy white gay men. They don't have to think.
That's for sure.
You know, they don't have to think about those thorny issues that other people, women of colour, for example. We have so many women of colour in the lesbian community that are really struggling. And, you know, it looks like they will vote for Hillary because Hillary's the only one talking to them.
Right.
So.
Well, you're right about that too. When you do hear about all the language of whether it's President Obama or Hillary or Vice President Biden, it's the first time I would have never imagined the White House being bathed in the colors of the rainbow or them talking about marriage equality. So, to me, it became very personal, and I'm sure for a lot of constituents.
Here's a very cynical business question or observation. If he wins, if Trump takes the White House, I think that being gay or lesbian is going to become a greater challenge again than it always has been. As you noted, it's always been a political. That was a great thought process, by the way. But does that mean that our unique media has an opportunity to flourish again or grow bigger? Because now, if we're totally the other, we're going to have an outlet that's not as assimilated. Does that make sense?
I couldn't agree with you more. I don't think LGBT media is dead, but I think that were we to enter a kind of era where, you know, you had Hillary, you had Angela, you had, the lady in the UK, Theresa May, you suddenly had these world leaders who were all female, I think you'd see a real swing into different values, and possibly this LGBT media wouldn't be as important as it is now. If we go in the direction of Trump, you will see it revitalize itself, and people will find the activist in them, you know. I mean, one of the greatest, I think about England under Thatcher, and she was quite despotic, but under her was the most incredible flowering
of Lady.
The Iron Lady. But the flowering of arts, I mean, all the music that came out, all of the art that came out, and the multiculturalism that came out of England because of that oppression. So it could, you know.
Well, the conservative media is hoping for Hillary because that keeps them in business for another 4 years. If Trump goes in there, what are they going to say?
Right.
So the liberal media loves it. You're not a U.S. citizen?
No, I'm green card holder.
Okay. I don't know why I thought maybe you might be. Will you someday?
Married.
I know you got married, but so that I was going to ask this. So do you automatically become a citizen?
No, you have to.
No. You have to go through a whole other process for that as well. So.
Will you do it, you think?
I don't know. Not if Trump gets elected.
You go back to your native Australia.
Right.
But that was a whole nother kerfuffle when Ruth Bader Ginsburg said something jokingly about telling her husband they were going to have to move to New Zealand or something, and suddenly it was like, how dare she do this? Da-da-da-da.
Traitor.
Well, they're not supposed to talk.
Antonin Scalia used to make
all the time.
off-the-cuff remarks that were really horrible all the time, and no one took him to task. Is it because she's a woman?
I think it's always because she's a woman. I really do. We're just not comfortable seeing women in power. It's a little too much like your mother telling you what to do. I mean, it's just not in our imagination that women can have this power. It's really sad.
Have you done any fun travels lately?
I have. I love traveling.
We know that.
No, I love New York, but I also like to get away from New York. But I also like travel as a kind of a lens through which to look at life and culture, and it revitalizes the way I feel about things and my understanding of humans. And when I feel things get kind of tough, as they do in America, it's really good to go to another country and see how people live there and how people address their problems there or their, diversity. So my last trip was to Hawaii, which I found fascinating. I love Hawaii.
Which island did you spend most of your time on?
The Big Island.
The Big Island, okay.
And Kauai for the first time.
Oh,
So
Kauai, I've never. That's very rustic, right?
Rugged.
Rugged is a better word for it.
It's rugged because if you've seen, I forget which Jurassic Park film, because they are not exactly my, favorite cinematic experiences, but there is a lot of scenery in one of those films, which is shot in this incredible stone valley in Kauai. It's just, you are literally there and you think a dinosaur is going to come lumbering down the prairie. It's amazing. So, but apart from that, it's rugged also on the Nepali coast, which is like something out of Corsica. It's just stunning. I did a catamaran sail around there. But it's actually a very beautiful, manicured, garden-like island. And that's really its epithet, is the Garden Isle. So I thought it was beautiful.
Kauai is just north of Maui, right?
It's it's really the
Furthest
furthest
in the
flung.
chain, yeah.
The only island more northwest than that is the sacred, forbidden island of the ancestors, which you can't go to unless you actually have Hawaiian blood.
I had no idea.
It's also beautiful, but it's
I
very
didn't either.
arid.
You know my feeling on Hawaii.
What's your feeling on Hawaii?
Long way to go for a beach, and it's muggy.
It's tropical and it's volcanic. So
It's we can get to England quicker than Hawaii. Or Europe.
it's 10 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long flight. John loved Hawaii, though.
I thought it was fantastic. I would love. We spent most of our time on the island of Maui, in the town of Kihei. We rented a condo, and every day was snorkeling, and it was just.
I've been 3 times, but I would not go again.
When you talk to the people that live there full time, though, they will tell you it's like the second sentence out of their mouth. You're on an island.
Yeah.
They're very aware that they are island bound. It's not like they're going to get in a car and drive over to
Get away.
or something. Yeah,
It's isolated. Yeah.
But I know a lot of people do love it. I'm just, I always take the contrarian version.
Now, where is IGLTA this year? You're going to be there, right?
St. Petersburg, Florida.
St.
Yeah,
Petersburg, okay.
I'm going to be St. Pete, and I have never been there. Can you believe?
Neither have I.
I've never.
Have you been to St. Pete?
Yeah, but just as a drive-through, nothing, not any time.
Meant to have white sand, Barrier Island.
Yeah, it
I'd
should
love
be
to
fun.
go. Yeah.
Well, listen, we want to, we always say on the focus group that time's a thief, so we want to thank you for joining us. Let the listeners know where they can learn more about Curve Magazine for your
Sure,
website.
for a taste of what we have to offer, jump on curvemag.com and, join us on Facebook and see if you like the thread of what we're doing. And we'd love you to subscribe and support lesbian culture and media.
Great. Thanks for joining us. It's Merryn Johns, editor-in-chief of Curve Magazine. It's Curve, C-U-R-V-E, mag.com to learn more about it. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish up with some shop talk, so stay with us.
The Focus Group is brought to you by the newly redesigned Volkswagen Passat, where family happens. Visit VW.com to learn more.
You're listening to The Focus Group
I said to my girlfriend just the other day, monsters are interesting, I said.
with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
And I'll bet you meet a lot of interesting people, too.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. Find us on all free platforms.
Like
YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. And if you do find us, please subscribe, like, and rate us. That's SLR. And focusgroupradio.com is the website that has all the information you'll need. All our shows are hosted there as well. And call us if you'd like at 914-362-8747. That's 914-FOCUS, FOCUSGR. And you can leave us a comment or ask a question. If we use your question or comment, you're going to get a pair of the famous Focus Group Radio socks, which are returning soon. All right, so Tim, Shop Talk was this fascinatingly, well, not fascinating, but a hilarious article I found called basically people share their absolute worst summer jobs. And I was going to use this as a jumping off board for us to talk about some of our jobs, but frankly, some of these people have jobs that I couldn't even top. Could you? Which is your favorite of all of these, by the way?
Of all these, I would say, well, yeah, there were a couple of them.
Yeah.
The one I thought, there's one that reminded me of a job I almost did. This was canvassing for environmental nonprofits. And this was a person who went door to door looking for people to donate for the Clean Water Fund or whatever the various causes would be. And the issue was if you, anything you made over $400, you got a commission. And when I was in college, there was a group called the Southwestern Book Company. Do you remember them? They were a reference book company.
Yeah.
And I went through the whole training program up to where I was going to be shipped off to.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I was going to get shipped off to Alabama with the promise of traveling the U.S. until I talked to someone who did it the year before.
Is this like selling encyclopedias or something?
Reference books, atlases, encyclopedias, religious books. And you go door to door to predominantly lower income families and put a guilt trip on them. That you would go to families that might not have had the education and say, you know, you really should, if you want your kids to have an upper hand, you really should buy this encyclopedia set or these reference books. And then I talked to somebody who actually did it the year before, and you just got dumped off in a van in a neighborhood in the morning at 8 o'clock.
5 p.m.
Pick you up at 5. And what you did for bathroom, what you did for lunch, what you did for any of that was all figure it out. And
You never did this.
No, but then I went home and did something worse. So
the story that Tim was talking about was a woman named Emily Marth, and she was canvassing did the same deal if you made over $400. But here, she says she goes up to a door and she knocks on the door, and a tired older woman opened the door and she says, "Hi, we're from an environmental group. Is Alice here?" She's donated in the past. The woman took a deep breath, the old woman. "Alice was my sister. She just died, and I'm packing up her things," she said. "Well, I know she donated years before, and it must have been meaningful to her, so I'm sure she would have you donate to us now." The woman looked at us exhaustedly and fished out her wallet. As we walked away, Jen used this as a teachable moment, her teacher on this. Teachable moment. "See what I did there? We could have lost a donation, but I thought on my feet and tugged on the heartstrings, learned from that, and then I called and quit on my train ride home."
You've got to be a certain type of person to do that sort of thing. When I didn't do the book thing, I went home and I ended up selling rainbow vacuums.
I remember the rainbow vacuum. I remember rainbow vacuums.
And so I looked in the newspaper, and the ad said, "Do you want to be on TV? Do you want to do TV commercials?" It was almost like an I Love Lucy sort of thing. And so I went to this rainbow vacuum thing, and my first client was Mary Ann Candido's family. I went there to demonstrate.
I cannot believe you would go to Mrs. C and try to sell her a vacuum, because she probably didn't want to play along.
Oh no, they did.
Oh, they.
I demonstrated the vacuum, and they were very quiet and very polite, and I'm sure I messed up the whole thing. I mean, the guy that did it was a real shyster at this franchise. And the next day I get home, and the phone rings, and it's Mr. Candido, and he said, "Come down to Baskin-Robbins factory. I got a job for you." So I turned my vacuum in and ended up becoming a teamster and working in the ice cream plant.
And get great stories.
But so it's
my personal favorite out of this list was the guy that worked as a pool boy at Trump Tower. So he worked for a company that they did all the private maintenance of the different pools around the city, and one of them was, I guess, Trump Tower. And he said basically he did nothing but fold towels and watch rich people come up to take a swim and sit a certain way on their decadent chair. I don't know what a decadent chair is. When he said, they come to sit by the pool in decadent chairs.
I was wondering about that myself.
Oh, if you see the pictures of Mar-a-Lago and stuff, maybe the chaise lounges are that gold, the gold leaf.
Something nice and tacky.
But he quit he said, after my coworker at the hotel wrote faggot all over my time card because her boyfriend cheated on her with a dude, I quit.
There was another one here, and we'll post these over at Focus Group Radio after the show airs, so that people can read them and share their stories as well. But there was one about the ice cream franchise, and this, whether it's coffee or ice cream or whatever, this restaurant thing. And I used to feel sorry for people. I would see them at the mall. The Orange Julius was one. Remember the ridiculous outfits you had to wear if you worked at an Orange Julius? Mm-hmm. Well, this group here had to sing a happy song every time they got a little tip in the jar.
Yep.
And they'd get
it was a musical gratitude.
Yeah, right. And it was, what was the Walking on Sunshine or something they had to sing?
Yeah.
And they said even if it was 50 cents, you had to be cheery and smile and sing a
but
song.
you need to read it the way she wrote it, or the guy, Jonathan. He said, yes, literally sing a song to thank someone for putting 50 cents in a fucking jar.
Our musical gratitude often shocked the patrons, confused why their meager donation merited such a bombastic response.
And then you should read that last paragraph, though.
Which one?
The last sentence. The one day I just couldn't muster the strength to belt out Walking on Sunshine while holding an ice cream scoop, so I threw down my apron and left. I think I would have liked to have been there the day he threw the apron down and left. I'm walking on sunshine. Ching! A dime goes in. Ching!
What was your worst summer job?
It was probably the summer that I worked in a factory making little tiny metal parts. So I would get to the factory at 8 in the morning and
what were the parts for?
This place was up not too far from the high school, when we went to the new high school, and I have no idea what they were for. No one bothered even to, but it would start out as this brass cylinder. I'd have to put it in a lathe. Oil's coming down because the oil takes the metal chips away. So you get to the factory, you put on your factory clothes, which stink of machine oil, and you put on this rubber apron. And I stood there and basically put the thing in, moved a lever, the thing went in, it drilled a special hole. Every 15th part, the owner would come over with some kind of micrometer, like a measurement device, to make sure that everything was that. And now and then he'd change the drill bit because it was falling out of tolerance zone. And then I would just,
Do you remember what you made an hour?
Oh, I think I made
$3 or $4.
No, it was more like $7 or $8 an hour.
It was pretty good then.
But that was the summer where I would finish that job. I'd go home and shower and then just sit for like 2 hours, like zoned out. And then you'd usually call and say, well, meet me at the Dairy Queen and whatever. And we'd go sit because you were doing the Teamsters job at the time.
Yeah, I was loading ice cream in trucks. Or in a 65-degree below zero factory.
The freezer trucks.
Freezer truck, yeah.
So I don't remember a lot of that summer. I thought I wrote a book in my head during the whole thing because you're standing in front of, that's all you did. And there was one guy at that factory, Bruno was the name of the guy that owned it, and his wife worked there as well, and she was pregnant that summer. And there was a guy that was my boss, nominal boss. His name was Michael. He had been with these two folks and the factory he was proud to say he was there for 15 years. And he worked on a machine like 5 feet away from me. I have no idea how you could. It was very numbing, let's put it that way. And I thought, wow, if this is what it's like to be on an assembly line, I give them a lot of credit. And they earn every penny of it, right?
Yeah, well, and that was my takeaway from a lot of these jobs was how fortunate you eventually become. But I think if we hadn't done these sort of jobs, I'm not sure that we would have developed maybe the way we did or appreciated the work that was ahead of us. Because I'll tell you what, after spending a summer doing some of these jobs, you realized pretty quick what.
Well, we'll finish with the guy that got paid money to blow mold off wind chimes. I mean, you can't even make this up. So one guy says, I spent one summer at a warehouse blowing compressed air at wind chimes. The company imported bamboo chimes of varying size and gaudiness from Bali that were blanketed in a layer of Polynesian mold. My job consisted
Hawaii,
of
probably.
Bali, yeah. Because it's so damp there, right?
Buggy.
My job consisted of standing outside alone, blowing highly compressed air at maximum velocity at these fucking things, especially power scrubbing the mold off them. I still wince every time I hear a wind chime clamoring in the breeze of a beachside home or antique dealer. I mean, every day, blowing air on a wind chime. Someone's got to do it, right?
Yeah.
You look at some of these jobs, like who's going to do it? So
No, I love them. We'll post that over at Focus Group Radio, and then if you share with us some of your summer jobs, you'll get a chance to win a pair of our famous socks. So we appreciate that. Hey, it's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. We want to thank Merryn Johns from Curve Magazine who joined us today. I want to thank you for joining us. Also, our partner here on the Focus Group, Volkswagen of America. They've been with us now for 7 years, and we appreciate their support of us and the Focus Group. John and I will be this fall taking a trip in the Golf Sport Wagon All-Track, which is their new all-wheel drive wagon. We think we're going to be in Colorado, but that may change.
Tim did the route. It's a cool route if we do it the way it's big circle. It's South Dakota, Wyoming,
Montana, Utah, Idaho.
Idaho's a big part of the trip.
So we're looking forward to that, and with our friends at Volkswagen. So everybody have a great week, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and rate us at your platform of choice. Take care.
The Focus Group, an entertaining look at the outside of business. For your convenience, listen anytime, anywhere, anyway, anyhow, and on anything. Got it? Head over to focusgroupradio.com and pick your poison. We're all business, except when we're not.